Hello, every pony. Scar89 here once again with another fanfiction reading. Today I'm going to, well, actually, tonight, it's quite late. Tonight I'm going to continue reading Magic and Mayhem and Murder. Oh my. Anyway, uh, yeah, Chapter 7 From Canterlot with Love. Author's Note.
I apologize to everyone for the long delay before this admittedly relatively short chapter. There's a long story there, but I suspect that's not the story everyone came here for, so I'll keep this short. This is actually part of what was going to be a much larger chapter. However, I felt this bit would be better as a standalone. And honestly, I didn't want to leave you guys updateless for however much longer it was going to take to complete this monstrosity. Also, the observant among you may not note a link in the story leads you to a YouTube video. I normally don't do that, or author's notes, but it was just so perfect I couldn't resist. Anyway, I'm back on schedule now, so look forward to a new update soon, and, as always, enjoy, rate, and review. Sincerely, with much love, Invictus.
It was a dark and stormy night. Although it wasn't really all that dark. Actually, it probably wasn't raining all that much either. But it was really more of an early evening. Maybe late afternoonish. Shawn! Anyway, the rest of the ponies had finally caught up with him in Twilight and demanded a retelling of his conclusions. As it turned out, it didn't take too long for Lyra to fall unconscious. She'd had most she had almost no rest since the murder, and the presence of close friends to comfort her had been enough to lull her into a deep sleep. Once the guard once the guards showed up, Applejack, Rarity, Fluttershy, and Rainbow Dash had felt comfortable enough with their friend's safety to come find them. After an outburst, Captain Aggius and the lieutenant, or lieutenant, apparently that's I've heard it both ways, had chosen to retire back to headquarters for the night to organize a citywide search for the assassin dogs. Likely it would prove fruitless. Shawn was convinced there was a greater mind at play here than the barely intelligible dog or dogs that had attempted to throw him out a window and failed, largely because he'd done it for them. Twilight had spoken up about her vain attempts to locate the dogs via spell work soon after pulling Shawn out of the water, and Princess Celestia agreed with his assertion that they could have worked alone. Apparently, there was no single diamond dog shaman capable of putting up a spell shield that strong, nor was she aware that any of the dog's precious few tribal casters, uh, celebrated leaders in their societies, had gone rogue. The offhanded commentary that one of the ponies he was working with was essentially one of, if not the strongest non-deity level caster in the world, once again remained him of the scale in which he was now working. I don't know why, but I feel like that made no sense. Shawn got the distinct impression Celestia had suspicions she wasn't speaking out loud, but she didn't get a chance to grill her, or he didn't get a chance to grill her about it before she left, presumably to make her own attempt at finding the culprits through magic. Seriously enough, Princess Luna had elected to stay behind and hear the story once more, or maybe to keep an eye on him. She was nearly as hard to read as her sister, though her own default expression was more dour than assumed. Through the mansion last night, admittedly, he'd rushed through the retelling a bit more than the original, since Twilight had said his name in a very threatening manner when he'd started his song again. Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash stomped their hooves apprehensively, and Shawn took a dramatic bow while the rest of the group absorbed the new information. "Well, this certainly changes the gravity of the situation." Rarity was the first to comment. You have a gift for understatement, Sugar Cube. Well, you have a gift for uncouth commentary. Rarity riposte. I don't know. Rarity's riposte was received with a weary smile by the farm pony. And I have a gift for making those little towel animals they put on your bed in fancy hotels. But none of that's helping us right now. Sean's pacing was starting to tear up the carpet, while his hand remained firmly affixed to his chin. Those dogs that chased us through the mansion were getting their orders from someone, and we need to figure out who. Twilight, not having finished rolling her eyes at Sean, shook her head. That's more easily said than done. I mean, it's not like we can just go over to the Diamond Dogs embassy and start making accusations. The Grand Galloping Gala is coming up, and we can't afford to cause an international incident with the Guests of honor. Sean stopped pacing and stared at her. What? Twilight. Oh, sorry, that was Twilight. What? Twilight tilted under his intense gaze. Has anyone ever told you you're a genius? Blushing, Twilight started to paw at the carpet when she suddenly straightened up. Sean, what are you thinking? Sean, however, was already out the door and walking quickly down the hallway. Sean! Twilight's frustrated shout echoed through the castle as she ran off after him. The rest of the ponies looked uncertainly at each other until Pinkie Pie's smiling, bouncing exit reminded them they had a human to follow. Luna stared off after them impassively, before huffing and disappearing in a sudden flash of deep blue energy. No! Aw, come on, we're just taking a look. Sean, this is not an abandoned mansion. This is an embassy. Officially, it's Diamond Dog Tribe's land. We can't simply take a look. They were standing in front of a rather impressive white building, made even more so by the fact that it managed to still be impressive despite being situated in a part of the city renowned for its opulent architecture. To put it another way, it had been a very short walk from the castle. The sun sat low on the horizon, while a soft early summer breeze blew through the air. Sean breathed it in slowly and prepared. Sean breathed it in slowly and prepared a carefully thought out, eloquent explanation of the sound resonating behind his seemingly rash actions. But Twilight, he whined. Give it up, Sugar Cube. She ain't changing her mind, and there ain't no reason she should. Applejack spoke through yet another weary smile. But no means no, Sean. The purple unicorn stomped her hoof in tandem with the last no. I find your lack of faith disturbing. Why does he keep saying it all weird like that? Rainbow Dash raised her eyebrow at Pinkie Pie, who shrugged. Sean sighed and stopped, looking at the other ponies around him before making eye contact with Twilight. Look, we all agreed the dogs have some major mojo on their side, right? She paused, thinking carefully before nodding reluctantly. And what's the nearest, biggest source of concentrated Diamond Dog mojo? Rolling her eyes, Rarity cut in before Twilight could respond. But that as it may, darling, the fact is that political considerations must come first in this case. You wouldn't want to risk causing an interspecies war, would you? The only sound was the continued blowing of that warm summer breeze as Sean's gaze slowly returned to the embassy. Sean? What? No, of course not. Sean snapped out of his reveries, laughing at the utter ludicrousness of the question. Who would ever want to sneak into a secure government facility to steal state secrets from hostile foreign nations, only to be discovered at the last minute and forced to make a daring escape through an exiting chase sequence that culminated in victory walking away in slow motion from an exploding embassy vehicle? Oh no. That's A-team joke right there. Oh, right. All six mares stopped whatever they were doing and stared at him with various degrees of incredulity. That actually sounds kind of cool. Rainbow! Twilight's accusing glare instantly silenced the Pegasus, who coughed and closely inspected her wings. Twilight sighed and looked back at Shawn, who was still staring intensely at the front gates of the embassy. The princesses are... wait, who's saying this? I think this is Twilight, I guess. Okay. The princesses are entrusting us to use the authority they gave us with resistance. We have to be absolutely sure the trail leads here before we do anything rash. She paused, then looked down at the gate with narrowed eyes. I'm also going to have a talk with whichever maid keeps giving you directions. Still deep in thought, Shawn allowed himself to be heard by Twilight and Rarity back towards the castle. There had to be some way for him to get inside the embassy. He just knew that the next break in their case was hidden somewhere in that building. If only more villains were like in the Bond movies, he mentally lamented. I could just sneak in as a guest at some ridiculous, overblown party and uncover their whole nefarious plot, all in one. Twilight? Yes? While distracted with his thoughts, he and the ponies had apparently made substantial progress on their way back to the castle. It was for the best, sorry. It was for the best, as that's where he needed to go anyway. Didn't you say there was going to be some sort of big party in a couple of days? The Grand Galloping Gala. Twilight stopped and stared at him, suspicion clear in her eyes. Why? A smile dreaded by those who knew Shawn well enough slowly took shape. No. Aw, come on! Many ponies wrongfully thought Captain Aggius had only two states of being, somber or furious. In fact, Lieutenant Gladius knew that the captain ran the same gamut of emotions that any other ponies did. The only difference being that he seemed mostly capable of expressing them only through a variety of glares and frowns. By this point, she didn't really think much of the fact that after many years of serving the throne with him, she could now tell the difference between the various flavors of glower her captain had in his arsenal. For instance, the alien being who was currently the subject of Aggius Ire? Should I say fire or I? It says IRE. Probably thought the captain was angry. While not technically wrong, this completely ignored the heavy notes of frustration and slight hint of confusion that Aggius's dangerously narrowed eyes and scrunched eyebrows were conveying at the very moment. What are they doing that they can't talk to me for 5 minutes? I just need to ask Sally to... Princess Celestia is currently in meditation and is not to be disturbed. What about Looney, then? Princess Luna is... The captain stopped and smiled. That, she thought, is something I'll never get used to. The last time she had seen the captain smile like that, a member of the Griffin Empire elite Praetorian Guard had subsequently run away screaming in terror. She was proud of her captain and loved working under him, but he had not earned his name or his reputation in the field by being meek. Now that I think about it, I believe she is available. Just go down the hallway, take the stairs at the end of the top floor, and it's the third floor on your right. Aggies looked after the retreating pair with a wistful glare before continuing on his way to the throne room. Gladius wasn't sure where the rest of the elements had gone off to, nor why Shawn had been running up and down the halls asking after the princesses. Although it was obvious that that Twilight Sparkle was being run ragged by having to chase the gangly alien around. Uh, Captain Agius, sir, did you just intentionally direct Miss Sparkle and Miss Spencer to Princess Luna's private meditation chambers? Wait, was that? Oh, okay. I messed that up there. Oh, forget about it. It was Twilight. The captain stopped and then shrugged. Some pony would have eventually told them where it was. Yes, sir, but they also probably would have warned them. But they also probably would have warned them to stay away from it and simply wait until nightfall. Did I forget to do that? Agius tapped his chin with a hoof. Silly me. Must have slipped my mind. Such a something. Permission to speak freely, sir? Granted. That was evil, sir. The captain nodded. Duly noted, Lieutenant. Now, come on. We have a city-wide search to conduct. Gladius glanced back over her withers down the hallway. She had only heard stories and rumors of unfortunate servants who had, for whatever reason, not been warned on their first day. She almost wished she could follow and see what would happen firsthand. Almost. Shouldn't they say first hoof? Shawn's existence had come to this. The entirety of the scope of his being was narrowed and focused into one simple fact that now resonated within every fiber and atom of his very being. How could he not have seen it before? It had always been so obvious. Yes, yet it took this one horrendous experience to make him truly realize and come to terms with it. I hate stairs, he gasped between breaths. Twilight sighed. I know, Shawn. I hate them with the intensity of 1,000 suns. That's nice, Shawn. I hate every stupid straight line making up every stupid stone brick stacked into this stupid, never-ending spiral staircase of sorrow. Her ears perked up. Spiral staircase of sorrow? It does have a... Sorry. Spiral staircase of sorrow? It does have a ring to it. I hate the word stairs. I hate the concept of stairs. I hate stairs. You said that one already, Shawn. Well, it's true. Ears twitching, Twilight stopped climbing and looked back at him. It might help a little bit if you stopped talking, she suggested. I will not be silenced. That's what they want, to censor me. Shawn directed the most vicious glare he could muster at the offending architecture. One day I will watch you burn. Admittedly, it probably would have been a lot more intimidating if he hadn't been lying face down on the steps, covered in sweat and shaking like a wet kitten. Twilight rolled her eyes with a little half-smile and nodded up at a door a short ways away. Come on, we're almost there. Groaning, Shawn dragged himself up the last 2 flights on his hands and knees. He emerged into a narrow, curving hallway behind his purple partner, glad to be done with the trip up and pointedly avoiding thinking about how they were going to get down again. Maybe he could convince Twilight to teleport them to the courtyard from one of the windows. Maybe he could just jump. Shawn, stop staring vacantly out that window. Sorry. Twilight stepped up to a sturdy door. From the hallway, at least. It didn't look any different than any other door he'd seen in the castle. No intricate markings or designs to designate this a room meant to be occupied by a goddess ruler. Just a plain slab of shaped wood. Okay. If this is the captain's idea of a joke, I swear I will set everything on fire, he muttered darkly. Did you say something? Twilight paused in the middle of bringing a hoof up to a knock, tilting her head this way. Her head his way. Nope. She stared at him with narrowed eyes for a moment before shrugging and turning to complete the motion. The tapping echoed through the empty hallways. Silence answered. Huh? Maybe we got the wrong route, Twilight's musing was interrupted as the door swung open on creaky hinges, seemingly on its own. That was spooky. Oh, okay. Oh, that was Shawn. That wasn't spooky. His comment caused her to raise her eyebrow at him. It's just Princess Luna, Shawn. I'm sure there's nothing to worry about. Contrary to her words, Twilight stepped forward rather cautiously, poking her head through the gap into the dimness beyond. Princess? Nothing. Twilight dawdled for a minute, biting her lip and looking back and forth between him and the ominous room. Finally, she seemed to come to a decision, opening the door all the way and stepping through in what might have come off as a violent manner had she not suddenly squeaked in fear. "Oh, Prince! Oh, oh, Princess! You startled me!" The cheerful, relieved voice was cut off rather suddenly, and Shawn contemplated chancing the stairs again. Unfortunately, contemplating was as far as he got before a pair of glowing, eerie eyes appeared at the entrance beforehand. He stared. The eyes stared back. There was only one thing any self-respecting psychic detective could possibly do when confronted with the presence of a clearly hostile poltergeist. Fortunately for Shawn, he was neither psychic nor had he any particular illusion of self-respect. His tactical retreat, which some may call frantic scampering, was halted not long after it begun by a deep blue aura. Slowly he was dragged toward the waiting darkness maw of the doorway, unable to move or make a sound. Princess Celestia had not been having a good day. To be honest, it had actually been several since the last one she could call good with any level of frankness. Incidentally, that one was right before the arrival of our new guest. She paused in her walk and shook her head slightly, putting the uncharitable thought from her mind. In reality, she happened to like Shawn quite a bit. Their initial surprise meeting had been awkward at first, but it had been a very long time since she had been able to hold such a casual, frank conversation with any pony. Too many of her subjects thought of her only as a princess, or, possibly worse, a goddess. Even Twilight Sparkle, practically a daughter to her, often treated her more like an ordinary school marm than the surrogate mother she thought of herself as. Very few ponies over the centuries had been privy to this fact, but when she and Luna had first taken up the mantle of leadership, they had deliberately chosen the title of princesses rather than queens, in an effort to avoid some of the very fear and veneration she saw in the eyes of her ponies every single day. Her idea had been a spectacular failure, which Luna still sometimes teased her about. Her thoughts drifted back to the strange creature, human, Twilight had called him, as she slowly made her way down the dim hallway of the castle's seldom used upper floors. The words gangly and awkward came to mind, as well as disrespectful and, according to Captain Fiddles, I can't pronounce these names. They're so Greek. Downright irritating. Her lips turned up in a hint of a smile as she remembered their interactions, such immensely differing personalities, such potential for a wonderful friendship, perhaps one she could encourage. A thought for another time. In spite of Shawn's faults, she couldn't help but instantly like him the moment his tone toward her had failed to change after he realized who she was. A smell familiar in its repulsiveness derailed her train of thoughts. She imagined this might be what the half-rotten carcass of a long-dead dragon might smell like if left out in the sun and doused generously with sulfur. Sighing, she approached the door nearest to the stairs, and the largest windows. Her sister had recently taken it upon herself to learn how to cook as part of a greater effort at readjusting. Society today was far different from the one she'd been so intimately involved with before Celestia grimaced. It had been over 1,000 years, yet the scars seemed fresh. Shaking her head, she took one last breath of clean air and stepped through the doorway. Her sister Luna had many talents. Unfortunately, her genius in other crafts did not extend into the culinary arts. Well, that wasn't entirely true. One could make the case that her sister was, in fact, a genius at ruining food. I think that's supposed to be a joke on another fan fiction where Luna tries to cook food and actually, no matter what happens, she just makes something terrible. It's kind of hilarious. The princess of the night had single-hoofedly banished eldritch horrors to Tartarus in the fearful times before they ascended the thrones. Celestia found it somewhat ironic then that her sister had stumbled upon a talent for creating them from everyday ingredients found in any pony's kitchen. Might I suggest putting the spices in the hot pan after the rest of the... Celestia trailed off. Before her was a rather unusual scene. Her dear student and the alien who was the source of her troubled thoughts sat silently frozen before a veritable buffet of terror. Carbonized cucumber tortilla rolls slathered in mustard and slimy neon purple scrambled eggs were among the more mundane dishes. Ah, beloved sister, might you like to sample one of our newest innovations? The poached barley flambe is, we believe, particularly edible. Celestia stood there for a moment before sighing again and smiling wanly at the hostage's pleading gazes. Luna, what have I told you about forcing ponies to try your cooking? The princess of the night stopped midway through putting down the last of the plates and had the decency to look abashed. But how will they know that they will not like it if they do not taste of it? Shaking her head, Celestia padded into the room and touched the tip of her horn to each of their foreheads, releasing them from the temporary paralysis spell. Ah! I can't do Sean's yell. Ah! Sean's scream trailed off as he looked around at the trio of raised eyebrows and cleared his throat. In my defense, I was pretty sure the sandwich wanted to eat me. The hoagies in question shuddered and rolled over, throwing off several sparks of blue magic in the process. Oh dear. That was it, the straw that broke the camel's back. After 8 consecutive hours of fruitless casting and 3 days of non-stop stress and sleeplessness, Princess Celestia, goddess, dawnbringer, and high regent of the court of the eternal sun, broke down into gales of laughter. Sorry, I can just imagine Celestia ruffling. Ruffle, 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 ruffle. The sound of tinkling bells pervaded Sean's mind. It took him a moment to realize that it was actually the venerable Princess Celestia, laughing her head off. He'd never heard a royal guffaw before. While Twilight was busy staring disbelief at her mentor and ruler, cackling like a madman or mad pony, Shawn took the opportunity to draw his shirt up over his nose. He nervously glanced over at Princess Luna, who looked both confused and slightly affronted by her sister's outburst. We do not find the humor in this," she muttered. Are those eggs hard-boiled? I didn't think you could hard-boil eggs at this altitude." Shawn picked up what appeared to be a perfectly normal-looking salad. Those are tomatoes, not eggs." The bowl fell from his hand and was regretfully stopped from clattering to the ground by a blue glow. Probably for the best, he thought. Wouldn't want to melt a hole in the floor. Shawn, seeing that Celestia had finally wound down a bit, clapped his hands together several times. All eyes turned to him. "Okay, then. Glad we all had this wonderful moment of bonding. Also glad nobody died, particularly me." His eyes wandered back towards the food against his wall, elating a shudder. "But I have a request. And what dost thou solicit of and what dost thou solicit of us, Shawn Spencer?" Princess Luna stepped forward, wearing regality like a cloak. Her voice, or perhaps the way she spoke, struck a chord with him. It didn't sound familiar, per se, but it sounded like it should, if that made any sense. Oh, I get it, okay. It didn't sound familiar, per se, but it sounded like it should, if that makes any sense. Not that much did these days. I need to go to the party. Wiping an errant tear from her eye, Celestia straightened, a smile still playing at the corners of her mouth. I was under the impression you had already been thrown a welcome party. Twilight nodded from her sitting position at Celestia's feet, apparently finally starting to get over the shock of seeing her mentor in such a state. Not just any party. Oh, not just any party. I need to go to the Great Galumphing Gala. Well, he could have pronounced it even worse, I'm just saying. He noted that his partner had turned a distinctly lighter shade of purple. Her mouth was moving, as if she was trying to say something, but all that came out was the same strange little squeak. Luna tilted her head at him. For what possible purpose wouldst thou need to attend the event? Wouldn't thine time not be better spent investigating? It wouldn't. No. Shawn shook his head and sighed. I'm gonna be honest. We've hit a wall here. Unless Selly was able to find a diamond dog with magic. He looked at her hopefully, but she shook her head. The trail had faded too much. The trail had faded too much by the time I attempted to trace it. Right. The only way we're going to get any further is by talking to one who job who. The only way we're going to get any further is by talking to ones whose job it is to keep track of all the dogs coming and going from the city. We cannot risk I know. Luna stared at him, sully, clearly unhappy with being interrupted, while Shawn put a hand to his head, thinking about how to phrase the next bit. Look, most of the stuff from the embassy will be at the party. Oh, most of the staff at the embassy will be at the party, right? He waited for the two princesses to nod before continuing. So, if anyone wanted to say, have a friendly chat with the staff about their problem with troublemaking dogs, that would probably be the best place to do it, Princess Celestia nodded, quickly catching on. There is still the matter of the investigation itself, dear sister, Luna amused. He cannot be invited on the premise of an investigation. It would cause unwanted speculation. Celestia thought for a moment before responding. He is a member of a previously undiscovered advanced civilization. Perhaps he could go as an ambassador himself. She smiled as she continued. It would certainly breathe new life into the party. Does this mean I get diplomatic immunity? Shawn piped in. I don't know why I was fumbling on that word. Princess Celestia nodded, but preempted his celebratory jig with a warning. Do not abuse it, however, as I will personally hold you responsible for your actions. She waited for him to nod gradually, then continued. The elements will be attending as well. Between you and them, the guest list should pull in every pony, griffin, and diamond dog in the city important enough to receive an invitation. Not how it works. Just saying, you have to buy tickets. It's kind of like going to a concert, except it sucks. Okay. I think you can do one better. Shawn pulled his shirt down from around his nose. Ask the Diamond Dogs Embassy to host the party. We need middle management and the regular servants to be there too. They're more likely to accidentally give something up than the big dogs. The princesses paused and glanced at each other. That may prove difficult, Celestia admitted. There is a long tradition of the party being hosted at the castle. Luna shook her head in response. Actually, we have the perfect excuse, dear sister. This weekend will mark the Diamond Dog Embassy's first year since its establishment. They were actually forced to reschedule their own celebration when they found out about the gala. She paused to think for a moment. We suspect that the ambassador might appreciate the gesture if we propose merging the two events and letting them host it. With a bright smile at her sister, Celestia nodded. I will speak with him about it tonight, then. The party will take place in 2 days. Preparation should be easy, considering their own original intentions. That's perfect. Thanks. Shawn nodded yet again, smiling happily. Just call me Bond. Just call me Bond. James Bond. We had thought thy name was Shawn. Luna looked at Twilight in confusion. Do humans often change their names? Shawn sighed wistfully and walked off while the increasingly pale unicorn only sat there, mouth still agape and emitting strange squeaking noises as the human she was in charge of rushing past and away from the horrible sights and smell of Luna's practice kitchen. At Celestia's worried look, Twilight swallowed, nodded, and stumbled to her feet to chase after Shawn once again. I'm sorry, dear. Could you repeat that? I must have misheard, because it sounded like you said we're all attending the awful gala again, and that it's being hosted at the Diamond Dog Embassy, no less. That's the gist of it. Shawn watched as Twilight's response to Rarity's question took its effect on the various mayors. Fluttershy buried her face into her hooves, while Applejack and Rainbow Dash turned a distinct shade of green. Even Pinkie Pie could barely summon a fake smile at the news. Rarity's reaction was the most dramatic as she yanked over a nearby conch with her magic couch and and collapsed onto it. Just what the hell happened last time they went, he wondered. It's not so bad, girls. Twilight's own smile looked even more fake and brittle than Pinkie Pie's. It's been 3 years. I bet no pony even remembers that gala. Probably. He didn't know why she had insisted on breaking the news to the girls. So far, he wasn't exactly doing a bang-up job of it. Oh, she wasn't doing a bang-up job of it. We don't even have anything to wear. I'm good, but even I can't make new dresses for every pony here in 2 days, Rarity exclaimed tearfully. So we'll just wear the dresses you made last time. Rainbow had managed to find her voice, though it was still slight shaky. Unacceptable! Who do you think I am? Oh, this is just the worst possible thing! Another dramatic collapse onto the couch. How about you take those old dresses you made and use them as a base? Modify them or something so they don't look quite the same, Applejack cut in. Rarity looked up from her dramatic pose on the couch, hoof on chin. I suppose that might work. It has been 3 years after all. Great. So now that we've got a plan, we can just... Shawn trailed off under the withering glares of the mares. He thought about Jules and how she would want him to act in this situation. Go sit quietly in the corner and think about what I've done. Twilight nodded grimly. He took a few steps back and sat down on a cushion, though it wasn't long before he was joined by Rainbow Dash. At his curious look, she shrugged. I hate planning this stuff. Shawn nodded sagely, then froze as an idea took shape. From the beginning, he'd never planned to actually spend much time asking questions at the party. The whole reason he'd asked to go and get the thing moved to the Diamond Dog Embassy was so he could subsequently sneak off and check whatever floors and offices were declared restricted. Chances are, any incriminating documents of whatever conspiracy was at play would be hidden there. However, he hadn't given much thought as to how he was actually going to sneak off once the party started. He certainly couldn't ask Twilight for help. She'd just say it was a terrible idea and do her best to stop him. No, this required action. This required brashness and a love of danger. This required... Hey, Rainbow Dash. Yeah? You know what would be totally awesome? The next 2 days before the night of the party passed in a blur. Somehow, Rarity managed to rework all 6 dresses and his own outfit so they practically oozed elegance and style. Trying to adjust myself on this chair. Shawn himself had had not had very what? Sean himself had not had. I think that's supposed to say Sean himself has have had not have not had very what had not had very much to do in that time. That did not sound right at all. I'm sorry. There was a lot of sitting around and listening to other ponies talk. Most of the planning was handled by Twilight and Applejack. The two figured out how they could best spread the group around to talk to the largest number of staff possible. Captain Aggius and Lieutenant Gladius were uh, glad Gladius I'm just gonna continue Gladius because I like that name better. Anyway, Captain Aggius and Lieutenant Gladius were, of course, brought into their little operation. The two were going to have to attend anyway, and the more ponies that were in on it, the better their chances at finding something out. Curiously, Sean saw neither hide nor hair of Luna or Celestia in all that time. Apparently, the two were a lot more involved in the planning process than he'd originally thought. It was probably for the best. He wouldn't want either of the two beings who could force him to tell the truth around right at this moment to ask inconvenient questions. He, he shared a glance and a wink with Rainbow Dash, who grinned widely. The full group of them stood on the cobblestone path in front of the well-lit gate as the crowd of ponies and griffins streamed by. Two massive diamond dogs in steel plate armor holding spikes stood at attention to either side. What do you know? Pikes really do have hooks sticking out their back. I don't know. Every pony remember the plan? Twilight spoke up confidently to a chorus of nods. The pony's transformation from nervous wrecks to fearless leaders over the past few days had been nothing short of amazing. It seemed to Sean that she actually drew strength from organization and careful planning. Hopefully, that attitude would survive better than plans often did. Wait, what? Let me read that again. Hopefully, that attitude would survive better than plans often did on first contact with the enemy. Sean grinned and primpted her as she paused to take a deep breath. Elements, roll out! The ponies barely stopped to wonder at the strange phrasing before following after him. And that is the end of chapter 7? Yes, that is the end of chapter 7. Man, that was actually a really good chapter. I can't wait to read the next chapter, actually. It looks pretty big. It looks like a really big chapter. How many words are in that chapter, actually? Go down. Chapter 8. 7,796 words. Wow, that is a lot. What to do now? Thanks for watching my video. You can go check out my other videos if you want to. Go check out Multi Fanfic Day and Pony Fanfic. Good friends of mine. They do awesome readings, better than me, I think. Sad news, I didn't make it into All-State like I wanted to, so that sucks a lot. But on a brighter note, those of you who go to Equestria Daily often probably have seen those little articles about those new vinyl collectible ponies at what's it called? Hot Topic. Well, guess what? I got both Derpy and Rainbow Dash. Hopefully they'll make more, and then I can get those. And what? Oh, I also got new glasses this weekend. You don't really care about all this. This is a very long outro, so yeah. Thanks for watching my videos. Go check out my other videos if you want to. Like, subscribe, comment, or don't. Troll me. It really doesn't matter. I don't care. But I guess with that, I will see you guys later. Pony on!